entertaining. So I want to kind of kick off today with a little baseball, because baseball to me, the people that sit there and say they don't like baseball, they don't watch baseball. Well, if you say that and you're doing this for a living, you shouldn't even be on the air. That's number one. Number two is you can't appreciate what we're seeing right now in baseball, because I think a lot of people out there aren't purists like myself. They just want to hate to hate. And what you're witnessing in baseball, and I'll get to the Phillies right now because they've shown you once again they figure out ways to choke. And a division that was right there for them, they just can't seal the deal. So we'll get to those fighting Phils in a moment. But you've got pennant races galore right now. You've got teams making ridiculous runs. The Yankees, again, Judge Stanton, 7 in a row. They are locked in. Have you noticed what the St. Louis Cardinals are doing right now? 17 wins in a row is just unheard of in baseball. It's absolutely unheard of. This team was basically a 500 team a couple months ago. 17 straight wins right now for the St. Louis Cardinals. So if you've been betting them, you've been putting some coin in the pocket. You've got the NL West, which is a two-team race, which is remarkable because, you want to talk about turnabout is fair play. Remember back in the day in the 90s where the Giants actually won over 100 games, but yet, and the Dodgers won over 100 games, but yet they got bounced. They didn't have an opportunity to play in the postseason. Well, guess what? You might have it this year as well. The Giants are sitting at 103 wins, even though they lost a cog in that lineup, which we'll get into as well. They're scoring all over. The Dodgers are scoring all over. It's ridiculous. 7-3, 8-2 in their last 10, respectively. So what you're witnessing is a great time to be a baseball fan. I don't know how you can't appreciate it. It's all about the pennant races, and it's all about the teams that get hot at the right time. And you've got some players now that are absolutely locked in. To me, the Dodgers and the Giants, this is one of the most intense. I think it's one of the greatest divisional races we've ever seen in the wild card era. I really do. I believe that. It's been fascinating to watch. And then you have the Philadelphia Phillies, where it was laid out for the Phillies. It really was. It was laid out for the Phillies where they had an opportunity in this series, starting last night, in which they lost 2-1 to the Braves, to make up a ton of ground, 2.5 back, 3 to play. You could have swept them. You could have been up a half a game. You close out the season, and who knows, maybe we're talking in another week or so, the Philadelphia Phillies NL East champions, right? Because they had 3 against Atlanta and then right back on the road, 3 against Miami. So this time next week, we could be talking about the Phillies in the playoffs. And again, what happens, right? What happens? They lose to Pittsburgh, a horrible team. And then last night, you turn around, and on the road, they lose to Atlanta 2-1. So every time you think you have this Philadelphia Phillies team figured out, they go on a 5-game winning streak, an 8-game winning streak, 6-game winning streak. They win 7 out of 8. Then they come back, and it's not even stubbing the toe. It's not. It really isn't. Because it was an intense game. You kind of saw it. They were kind of scratching and clawing. Atlanta scores 2 in the 3rd. The Phils come back 1 in the 9th. The Braves hang on, for that scary 9th inning. They hold them off 2-1. And this is what you run into. A little bit of a buzzsaw by the name of Charlie Morton. Because you got a dominant late September performance by him. He threw 7 scoreless frames. Soler hit the 2-run single. The Braves got out of the 9th. They beat the Phils 2-1, and they move closer to their 4th consecutive NL East title. If you are the Phillies, it was there for you. Because with the loss last night and with Atlanta's win, they reduced their magic number to 3 games. They extend their lead to 3.5. Right now, the Philadelphia Phillies, this is a spot you don't want to be. You no longer control your fate with 5 games left. The loss eliminated them from contention from an NL wildcard. Now, you got to win out. I mean, that's pretty much it. It's cut and dry. That's it. Which I don't even think is going to be enough because you think you're going to depend on the New York Mets to beat the Braves in the final regular season series? But this is what we've seen, right? So last night, McCutchen loaded the bases with an intentional walk. Gregorius with the sac fly. Runners at the corners. Smith fell behind Freddie Galvis, 3-1. Evens the count. Galvis fouls off 2 pitches. Swung past the fastball. And you wasted a great performance by Zach Wheeler last night. 2 runs, 4 hits, 7 strikeouts in 7 frames. But this is who the Phillies are. They're not built very well. They're just not. And all we heard is Dombrowski, Girardi, right? We've heard it for years, even with the Philadelphia Phillies, mismanaging the bullpen. You get all these injuries. They've been brutal at times. You got a mess up there with your president of baseball operations. I mean, look, I think a lot of people were excited that you had a World Series winning GM kind of calling the shots for the Philadelphia Phillies. And you really haven't fixed a club that's hovered over 500 the last couple of seasons. So the short of it right now is 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, because now you take a look at this club from a distance, right? From a distance now. Some of these moves have backfired. And unfortunately, I mean, think, ready? So I'll give you Didi. $28 million over 2 years. You had no shortstop on the roster when February arrived. So they panicked. They gave Didi Gregorius pretty much everything that he wanted to return to Philly. And even early on, he was horrible. He was horrible. Even prior to being nicked up. He was batting like 229. So then you got to rely on guys that are what? AAA? You got to start calling up some guys. You know, you signed Archie Bradley, $6 million. Matt Moore, Anderson, $7 million total. You traded away Corbin. You signed Joyce. You know, you gave that big contract to JT Realmuto. $115.5 million over 5 years. I mean, has he given you your money's worth this year? No, he hasn't. I mean, it's just a fact. He hasn't. He hasn't given you the production that you hoped he was going to give. I mean, he slugged 25 home runs in 2019. He's got 16 this year. We know about the pitching. We know Aaron Nola is not a frontline starter. We know that. And this is where you're at if you're a Phillies fan. And barring a miracle, they're going to be on the outside. Once again, looking at, do you realize their drought? The Philadelphia Phillies playoff drought is nearing a 10th straight season. It's almost like the Eagles. We forget the Eagles won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. You forget, it seems like it was generations and years and decades ago that the Philadelphia Phillies beat Tampa Bay to win the World Series. I mean, it's not good. You got 5 games left. You're 3.5 games behind the Braves, 4 back in the loss column. The only path to the playoffs is going 5-0. And the Braves have to go 1-4, or you go 4-1 and the Braves go 0-5. And like I said, now if that happens, Atlanta plays a makeup game against the Rockies next Monday. Then if they win, you got a tie-breaking game at Citizens Bank Park. But in a year where it was right there for them, in spite of some of their defensive woes, blown bullpen, not getting production where you needed to get it, aging guys like McCutchen, injuries here and there, you know, Harper starting to come on late. It was right there. And you hate to pour salt on the wound. But you'll look at the stretch where they dropped 2 out of 3 against Los Angeles. They dropped 2 out of 3 against Cincinnati. Then I'll tell you what really hurt them. They had that series against Arizona. And again, you have to be honest, folks. You want to get in the playoffs, you have to beat a team that right now sits at 107 losses. They've got no one to blame but themselves. And they teased you. They teased you this season. They really did. They played bad baseball in August. They dropped 12 out of 15. Then they had the nice little run to close out the month, winning 6 in a row. Then they lost 2. Then they lost 4 out of 6. Then they won 5 out of 7. I said this a month ago. The winner of the NL East is going to be the team that just goes on a little bit of run in spite of themselves. And that's the Atlanta Braves right now. Who are the better team? And here's the bugaboo right now if you're a Phillies fan. Now, and this is what's going to happen, because either way, if they lose tonight, okay, if they lose tonight and Aaron Nola, who's scheduled to start, gets shelled, and you're pretty much done, and that's all she wrote, it's open season on Aaron Nola. And I know people don't like to say this, and people don't want to hear this, and I'm telling you right now, I never believed he was an ace, ever. Ever. So I don't want to hear that this is probably his biggest start to prove he can be counted on in a big game situation. Where the hell was that 16 other starts, 17 other starts? There's no more of this ace talk when it comes to Aaron Nola. I don't care if he goes out there tonight and he throws an 8-inning, 2-hit shutout. I'll give him his just due, but then where the heck was that? Where's that been? I mean, I gotta start to worry if he gets in front of these guys 0-2. He's going to give up a home run. I'm hoping he goes out and he delivers tonight for the Philadelphia Phillies. But am I going to be confident? No. I have no confidence in him whatsoever. And now you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. All right, we're just cranking up on a Wednesday edition of BYP. Rich Quinones here, 20 past the 4 o'clock hour. We will take a timeout. I see the tweets are coming already. At Rich Q at 1490 Sportsbet. I always appreciate that. Johnny Mack, a little football, a little NFL talk. The wounded Philadelphia Eagles get set to take on the Kansas City Chiefs, a squad that has lost 2 in a row. The Chiefs are angry. They're ticked off. If you look at the line right now, we told you there was going to be a ton of movement in the NFL with some of these lines for week 4. And it opened. And this is the NFL now. You got a team going on the road. It opened right around 8.5. It's right around sitting at 7. I think it'll close 7.5. Still not the biggest line of the weekend, by the way. But you have 3 or 4 games where the line is 7+. Giants, Saints, Titans, Jets, Kansas City, and the Eagles. I believe right now that Packers line is a shade juiced to the under, 6.5. So we'll talk a little football with Johnny Mack, Rothstein in the 5 o'clock hour as well from the Philadelphia City Cast. We'll get his thoughts on the Phils and the NFL. And, of course, you guys out there, keep it locked in as we're just cranking up on a Wednesday right here on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio, South Jersey Sports Leader.